Hello, movie lovers. Welcome to Does It Hold Up, Box Office Edition. On this show, I look at the box office from this past weekend to see what were the top 10 movies, how movies are doing so far for the entire year, do a couple comparisons between this year and last year, and then at the end of the show, we kind of break down something a little bit different. This week, we're going to break down Best Picture winners at the Academy Awards through the years. So stick around for that to see if it can help tell us who's going to win Best Picture this year. But as always, we start with what were the top 10 movies domestically at this past weekend's box office. In first place was a new movie that just came out this past weekend called Dog Man. This one's for the kids, and apparently they all showed up for it because it opened up to a very respectable $36 million. In second place was another new movie. This one was more adult-oriented, called Companion. It opened up to $9.3 million here domestically. And in third place is Mufasa the Lion King in its 7th week with another $6.3 million. It's got a grand total right now of just south of $230 million. One of them days comes in 4th place with another $5.8 million, bringing its grand total so far to $34 million. Flight Risk is in 5th place in its 2nd weekend with another $5.5 million for a grand total of right around $21 million domestic. 6th place, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in its 7th week with another $3.2 million. It holds on to a very slight lead over Mufasa the Lion King with $230.5 million. In 7th place is Moana 2 in its 10th week, double digits in the top 10. It made another $2.8 million. Its grand total is $454 million. It is still slightly behind Wicked, and as it's falling off, I don't think it's gonna get there. In 8th place is A Complete Unknown in its 6th week with another $2.3 million, grand total of $66.8 million domestically. I'm sure that's being helped along by the multiple Oscar nominations that this movie received, so more people are going to the theaters to check it out. In 9th place, another movie probably being helped by the 10 Oscar nominations that it got, was The Brutalist in its 7th week, sticking around with another $1.8 million. Its total so far here domestic is $12.1 million. And rounding out the top 10 is Den of Thieves 2 in its 4th week with another $1.6 million. Its grand total right now is $34.4 million. And this is the last we will probably see of that in the top 10. Not a bad top 10 for the last weekend of January, but how did it hold up compared to this same weekend in 2024? Well, we're going to take a look at a line chart to tell us exactly how it's doing. We did this last year for 24 to 23, and it worked out pretty well. We could see what weekends 2024 beat 2023 to kind of see the projection on if it was going to be a better year or a worse year. So I wanted to keep that going here in 2025, but instead of flashing back obviously to 2023, we just compare it to 2024. So same weekend, compared side by side, which year has more money? Let's find out. It is the 5th weekend of the year, and in 2024, Argylle was new to theaters, that abysmal failure of a movie. It led the way to all movies making just under $54 million. That was not good. Argylle was a huge flop, and it really made the rest of the box office suffer. This year, though, Dog Man, with a very impressive opening of that $36 million, led the way with all movies making $84.7 million. That is $30 million more than 2024, which is absolutely incredible. In fact, so far through 5 weeks, 2025 has only lost once. And that was the 2nd weekend of the year, where Den of Thieves opened up rather low compared to Mean Girls opening up decently last year. So 2025 seems to be shaping up to be a good movie-going year. I'm actually thinking of expanding this chart, and I might play around with it a little bit. Compare it to maybe the last year before the pandemic in 2020, so we can kind of see if numbers are going back to pre-pandemic times or if we're just settling into a new normal. It's something I've been thinking about, might be adding that to the chart. Not sure yet. I'll kind of see how the chart looks and it looks too messy. Maybe we won't play around with it that much. Next, we're going to take a look at what were the top 10 movies so far. What are the top 10 movies so far here in 2025? Not movies that released this year, just any movie that's made money since January 1st. What are the top 10 movies that have done that? So a lot of the ones on this list released in 2024, but they've been having a strong stay here in 2025, and that's why they're on this chart. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. A couple new movies come into the chart here and a little bit of movement, so let's go through them all. Mufasa the Lion King is still in first place. In 2025 alone, the movie has crossed the $100 million mark with $101.5 million. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 stays in second place with $79 million made in 2025. In third place is Moana 2 with $49.9 million. Nosferatu stays in fourth place with $46.6 million. A Complete Unknown actually jumps up one spot into fifth with $38.3 million, which pushes Wicked down to sixth place with $37.9 million made here in 2025. In seventh place, with its very good opening, is Dogman with that $36 million, knocking Den of Thieves 2 Pantera down to 8th place with $34.4 million, also knocking One of Them Days down to 9th place with $34.3 million, and another new movie jumping onto this chart is Flight Risk. In 2 weekends, it has made $20.7 million. Two movies fell off this chart: Baby Girl, which did come out in 2024, surprising it lasted this long, but also Wolfman, a new movie here in 2025 that just didn't seem to capture the audience it was looking for. Okay, that's it for the box office charts, but now we're going to start breaking down Best Picture winners at the Academy Awards through the years. Because, it's awards season. Oscars are coming up March 2nd, and I wanted to take a look to see if there's maybe a predictor out there of what's going to win Best Picture. There's quite a few that could win, but are they going to? Well, I wanted to take a look at how does Best Picture compare with Best Directing? How often is it that if they win Best Director, their movie also goes on to win Best Picture? So I went all the way back to 1930. Yes, I know you're going to come in the comments and go, well, the Academy started in 1929. Why didn't we include that year? Well, that's because in 1929, they awarded 2 Best Pictures, one for Best Drama and one for Best Comedy. And so it was really hard. And by the way, the director that won that year, neither one of the Best Pictures was the movie that he directed. So it just would have skewed numbers slightly with that. But also it got me thinking, should the Academy go back to that? Should they go back to doing a Best Drama Picture and a Best Comedy Picture? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. There's a lot of charts coming up. Promise, just stick with me. I'll try to get through them as quick as I can while still giving you all the information on them. So here we go. Let's deep dive into the history of the Academy Awards, Best Director versus Best Picture. Going back to the 1930s, this is what the chart's going to look like for every single decade. All of the wording in red means that the Best Director winner and the Best Picture winner were different. All the ones in green mean they were the same. So in 1930, it was not the same. The Divine Lady won for Best Director. Picture went to The Broadway Melody. 1931, it was the same. All Quiet on the Western Front won both awards. In 1932, Skippy went for Best Director. Cimarron went for Best Picture. In 1933, Bad Girl won Best Director, while Grand Hotel went to claim Best Picture. 34, Cavalcade won both. Again in 35, It Happened One Night won both. In 1936, 1937, and 1938, they were different. In 1939, though, it did end that decade with the same movie winning both. You can't take it with you. So in the 1930s, there were 4 movies that all won Best Director and Best Picture, and 6 that did not. Moving on into the 1940s, you can see the Academy here this year decided, you know what? If we give it Best Director, we might as well give it Best Picture as well, because they did it 8 out of the 10 times. Only 2 times, in 1941 and 1949, were the winners different. In 1941, Best Director went to The Grapes of Wrath, where Best Picture went to Rebecca. And then in 1949, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre won Best Director, while Picture went to Hamlet. Some notable ones that won this in this decade were 1940, Gone with the Wind picked up both awards. In 1944, one of my favorite movies of all time, easily in my top 3, Casablanca won both awards. And then in 1947, it also went to The Best Years of Our Lives, winning both awards. I'm not sure that was correct, but it's what the Academy went with. Moving on into the 1950s. 6 times the Academy said the same movie should win both awards. 4 times they did not. Those 4 times they did not were in 1950, where A Letter to Three Wives won Best Director, but All the King's Men picked up Best Picture. In 1952, A Place in the Sun won Best Director, but Best Picture went to An American in Paris. Then again in 1953, The Quiet Man picked up Director, while Best Picture was The Greatest Show on Earth. Then a couple years in a row, they were the same, 1954, 55, and 56, with a notable one here in 54 and 55, From Here to Eternity winning both awards, and then in 55, On the Waterfront winning both awards. Those are maybe 2 of the best movies of all time, easily ranked probably in the top 50 movies ever made, at least in my opinion. But in 1957, this was a year in which the Academy differed, because Best Director was won for The Man Behind Giant. I've seen that movie, not sure it's all that it's cracked up to be. And Best Picture went to Around the World in 80 Days. I feel like the Academy probably should have gave Around the World in 80 Days both awards, but sadly they did not. In 58 and 59 though, they did go to the same movie. Notably, 1958, The Bridge on the River Kwai. Fantastic movie. If you've never seen it, I highly advise going, finding this movie, and checking it out, because it is amazing. Moving on to the 1960s, only one time in this decade did the Academy say, you know what, a different director and a different Best Picture. And that was in 1968, when The Graduate won Best Director, but Best Picture for some reason went to In the Heat of the Night. Not a great call there. I definitely would have gave it to The Graduate over In the Heat of the Night, but, again, just my personal opinion. The rest of that decade, all the same. In 1960, it went to Ben-Hur. 61, The Apartment won both. In 1962, West Side Story surprised everyone and picked up the award. 63, Lawrence of Arabia. 64, Tom Jones. 65, My Fair Lady. Great movie. In 66, The Sound of Music. Okay, quick side tangent here. The Sound of Music, let me know in the comments below if you like this movie or what you think about this movie, because I personally am not a fan. I just don't understand the love of it. I think there's a few good songs in the movie, but I think the movie's a little bit too messy for its own good. It's a tale of 2 movies. We start one way, we end a completely different way, and those movies don't mesh very well. So, am I wrong here? Or am I on an island of my own, or do I have people with me? Let me know in the comments below. Let's get back to the list. And then in 1967, A Man for All Seasons picked up both awards. Rounding out that decade, Oliver, with an exclamation point, picked up Best Director and Best Picture. Let's move into the 1970s. Once again, only once did the Academy think that the winner should be different, and that was in 1973, where Cabaret won for Best Director, but Best Picture went to The Godfather. I wonder if the Academy's sitting there kicking themselves over this one, saying, definitely messed up, should have gave The Godfather both awards. The rest of the decade played out like this. In 1970, Midnight Cowboy won both. In 1971, it went to Patton. 72, The French Connection. 74, The Sting. 75, The Godfather Part 2. 76, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. 77, Rocky. 78, Annie Hall. And 79, The Deer Hunter. That is an incredible decade. Oh my gosh, incredible movies came out in the 1970s. Moving on to the 1980s, once again, 9 yeses, only 1 no. That 1 no was 1982, where Reds won Best Director, but Best Picture went to Chariots of Fire. I'm not going to go through all of these. 1980s, a lot of these are good movies. I'm not sure they're great movies. 83 was Gandhi. 84, Terms of Endearment. 87 was Platoon, fantastic movie. And 89, Rain Man won both, which was a little bit of surprise, but what are you going to do? Moving on to the 1990s, the Academy changed it up here. They actually went 2 where the movies were different and 8 where they were the same. And they basically bookend the entire decade. In 1990, Born on the 4th of July won Best Director, but Best Picture went to Driving Miss Daisy, a movie that people have kind of gone back and retroactively decided maybe that wasn't what should have won Best Picture. And then in 1999, a huge upset here where Saving Private Ryan, Steven Spielberg won Best Director, but Best Picture went to Shakespeare in Love. Disastrous results in 1999. Rest of the decade kind of played out, the same in both of these. Some really good movies won. Schindler's List in 1994 picked up both. In 95, my personal opinion, Forrest Gump, one of just a bad movie. I don't really like this movie. When you had a movie like Shawshank Redemption come out that year, which obviously should have won at least Best Picture, Braveheart in 96, and then Titanic, that juggernaut, came out of everywhere and won both awards in 1998. We're going to move into the 2000s here. 7 yeses, 3 nos. 2000, same movie, American Beauty. 2001, Traffic. Steven Soderbergh for Traffic wins, but Gladiator, Ridley Scott, Best Picture. Let me know in the comments which one you think should have won both, because I'm not sure it should have been split here. In 2002, A Beautiful Mind picks up both awards. 2003, The Pianist wins Best Director, but Best Picture goes to Chicago, a very weird win. Both of those, actually. 2004, Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King picks up both awards, followed by Million Dollar Baby in 2005. In 2006, an absolute travesty happened at the Academy Awards that year. Ong Lee won Best Director for Brokeback Mountain, but that picture lost to Crash for Best Picture. That's insane. Brokeback Mountain was easily the best movie of that year. 2007, The Departed picked up both. 2008, No Country for Old Men. And 2009, Slumdog Millionaire picks up Director and Best Picture. We're almost done here, guys. I promise we're going to get through this. 2010s, the Academy was evenly split. 5 yeses, 5 nos. First 3 years, they agreed the same movie should win both. In 2010, it was The Hurt Locker, upsetting Avatar. In 2011, The King's Speech. 2012, The Artist. 2013, though, they decided to differ. The Life of Pi picked up Best Director, and Best Picture went to Argo. Alright. 2014, Gravity picks up Best Director, but 12 Years a Slave, Best Picture. 2015, Birdman picks up both awards. 2016, they differ again. The Revenant, Best Director, and Picture went to Spotlight. 2017, that messy year, La La Land wins Best Director and almost won Best Picture until it was corrected to give it to the rightful movie, Moonlight. In 2018, The Shape of Water picks up both awards, and in 2019, Roma gets upset by Green Book for Best Picture. And 2020s, we only got 5 years so far, so this shouldn't take as long to get through. 4 yeses, 1 no. That 1 no was in 2022 when The Power of the Dog won Best Director for Jane Campion, but Best Picture went to Coda. I know a lot of people were mad that year, but I personally loved Coda. I thought it was an amazing movie. I was very happy to see it win. The other movies that won both awards in the 2020 so far were 2020 Parasite, 2021 Nomadland, 2023 Everything Everywhere All at Once, and 2024, the only movie that was going to win that year, Oppenheimer. So overall, I just went through 95 years of Academy Awards. Again, I did not include 1929 due to 2 different movies winning. Times the same movie won both awards. 69 of 95 for a 73% win ratio. And the times they were different, 26 for a 27%. So what does this tell us in 2025? It tells us that 3 out of 4 times, if a movie wins Best Director, it's also going to pick up the Best Picture award. So in 2025, on March 2nd, when you're watching the Academy Awards, when they get to Best Director, pay attention, because whoever wins has a 73% chance of that movie going on to also win Best Picture. And there's no real surprise. All 5 directors that are nominated for Best Director in 2025, all 5 of those movies are also nominated for Best Picture, so there can't really be any surprises there, unless, of course, it's one out of those 4 times when Best Director goes to somebody and Best Picture goes to somebody else. It's going to make things very interesting. Over the coming weeks, at the end of each box office show, I'm going to break down something else about the Academy Awards to see if we can kind of figure out what movie is going to win the big award of the night. Does it matter how much money it made? Does it matter what its critical score is? Well, we're going to break that all down over the coming weeks, so make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until I see you again, just remember to be good to yourself, kind to others, and keep watching movies.